Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leadership from the Heart with myself, Renee Funk, and the one and only Elizabeth Riley. Hey, Elizabeth.
Hey, guys. Good morning. I guess it's not morning. I'm sorry. It's still morning in my mind. But hi. Happy Monday. Happy day.
Well, you know what day it is. So we're ahead of the game because lately for the last 70 days or so, we haven't quite always known what day it is, but we know it's a day for lots of smiles when we have a guest that is the one and only Sue Pinky Benson. I like to call you Pinky. I like to say you are the Instagram and video marketing extraordinaire.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Welcome.
That's quite an opening. I don't know. I'll have to work hard at living up to that.
Everyone who follows you know you inspire other realtors, and of the many things that you do, you really lift up the real estate industry, which is why Elizabeth and I were so excited to share conversation with you today, because that's what it's all about.
Sorry, I was muted. I had dogs going crazy in the background. The beauty of working from home and COVID. So I had to mute myself. Yeah, I'm excited about having you on because I know you have so much knowledge and information, and that's one of my weaknesses is where you come in as your strength. And so I'm just ready to, when Renee and I were talking about having you coming on, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait. So I'm ready to soak it all in. I probably won't be able to add a whole bunch because I'm a little bit behind the wheel, but I'm excited to learn from you.
Well, for those who haven't had a chance to meet you yet, Pinky, would you share a little about yourself and your journey as a realtor?
She's frozen. I was going to say,
we lost her.
Frozen.
She'll pop back in.
Yeah, I'm super excited after Renee coming off of all that learning last week, and then now to have her. This is going to be awesome. There you are. You're back.
You guys went to black. Could you even see me?
We can see you were frozen because we asked you a question. I was like, she's not moving. Yes. Even though that you really hated our question. So no, we're excited to have you.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, would you share a little about yourself, Pinky, and your journey as a successful realtor?
Okay, I can do that. Let's see. I've been a real estate agent for more than a decade. I started up in the Tampa area in a little town called Brooksville, Spring Hill, so about 45 minutes north of Tampa. And prior to that, I was in the broadcast journalism. So I actually worked at a Fox station in Tampa for many years. I was the consumer producer and reporter. So I was the person that you would write into about your problems. And then I would take a camera, have a camera rolling over my shoulder and go in and do confrontations with businesses. So much different than these days when I'm on camera. So I started in the small town, and then about 5 years ago, we had a major life event that happened to us. We lost our son Sawyer, and we decided that we wanted a new adventure. And so my husband, Josh, who has grown up in Naples and lived here, all the way through college, he's like, let's go and let's try Naples. And, that was a big jump. You wouldn't think going 3 hours away would make such a big difference, but it is a major difference, especially when it comes to real estate. At that time I was by myself, and I had to start all over again on a very limited budget because, you've relocated and things are a little more expensive in Naples than they are in other places, including the housing, right? Yeah. So I had to start over. And, and then now my husband, who was in the finance industry, he came and he had his license for many years. He just never activated it. So he knew a whole lot about what was going on. He at one point had done mortgages. So, it was just this natural, bringing him in. And then all of a sudden it was just like, okay, that was truly the missing piece of my business was him, and so it's been this great journey the last couple of years to really bring him in and train him and get him comfortable on camera. So, all those fun things.
It's pretty epic that you have built a business so successful in such a short amount of time. An often question I think realtors ask is, what happens if I relocate? What happens if I have to start over in an entirely new market? I'm just learning this for the first time that you had done that. What tips would you have with that transition?
If I had been in my right mind, if was not, so just in survival mode is the best way I could put it to you. That, I didn't think long term. I wasn't thinking, like, I was like, oh, I sold houses here, I can sell houses there. I'm licensed throughout the state. It must be similar. But, there were things that I didn't even realize when I first came here, which, for example, there are 67 counties in the state of Florida. We all pretty much use the Florida FAR bar contract, particularly the as-is contract. I got to county in the state that has their own contract. So it was like, say, what now? Like, I mean, there was a lot of differences that I had to like start to understand the mindset of the sellers here. So yeah, I mean, if I had thought all these things out ahead of time, I probably would have been in a pure panic mode. But I literally was just at a place of, I need to breathe first. And I'm very grateful. I talk about the glory and grief. And that was one of the things, was that I had on, the blinders, and I was only focused on making it through the day, making my family happy, surviving, breathing. And then it was just, business will come. And I'm still not like, at this, like, selling multi-million-dollar properties. I'm not that, I'm not the top listing agent in Naples. But what I'm successful at is that my business has continued to grow over 5 years and doubled and tripled. And that to me is significant enough to say, yes, I am a success. And I think that that's where agents get hung up and get very hard on themselves, is that they think success means, oh, I have to be making $500,000 a year to be considered a success. And that's not what success is. If you're continuing to build and grow and learn about your industry and be part of it, that is a success. That is a success story. And if you can overcome the hurdles, that's a success. So maybe you only sold one house last year and this year you sell 5. That's a successful year.
I love that you're sharing that, because I talk about that a lot, not only in success, but people are comparing themselves to others all the time, right? And just exactly what you're saying. If you sold one house and this year you've done 5, oh my gosh, that's a huge increase. Kudos to you. But if you're too busy looking around and seeing what everybody else is doing, you're not going to celebrate that success. And I think people lose that a lot, because I'm successful in my own way. What's successful to me and my family might not look like what's successful for you and your family, right? But still, I'm going to grow and learn from that. I'm going to celebrate those. And I realized that the wrong way, because I was losing out. I was forgetting to celebrate those. And when I look back, hindsight's 2020, I missed out on all that. And when you're talking about moving, I moved to a different state. And so you're talking about moving around in Florida. When you first said that, I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's challenging. The challenge you have is, well, I'm moving somewhere where I don't really know anybody. I came from this area where I knew everybody, right? And I moved to another state where I knew nobody, and all the contracts and things were the same or weren't the same. So that's what you were experiencing. So not only are you trying to meet people and build your business up, but now you're trying to learn the contracts and learn everything else to make sure you are highly successful in representing those people, and everything else you were going through. That's a lot. That's a lot. So for you to come out of that and be so successful, again, the way you want to be successful, is pretty inspiring.
Oh, well, thank you. But it is, I think that is, and that's just in life in general. And I think social media makes that very easy for us to compare ourselves to our counterparts. We look and we see the post. Oh, look at her. She sold another one. Oh, look at him. He got the top producer award. And we don't stop and say, okay, where am I compared to where I was last year?
Right.
And with COVID, now it's like, it happened to me already this year. I'm like, I'm competing with myself from last year. And I'm going, okay, I should have hit that milestone already. And I have to say, you know what? Nobody anticipated COVID. I can't control COVID. And I have to say, I'll still hit, by the end of the year, I'm still going to hit my goals. But it's just, I have to move out my milestones. I have to move out those battles, so to speak, a little bit further to say, okay, I'm going to win that one. Next month will be the month instead of this month, or what have you. And, we're so hard on ourselves, and we let these voices in our head consume us. And we have to take a break sometime. I was telling you ladies beforehand that, I took a break from social media for the last couple of days, especially Facebook, because there's been a lot of toxic going on. And why I feel that's happening is because, in many ways, we're all grieving right now, right? We've been through this major change, and it's grieving in the fact that things are not the way they used to be. and we only want them to go back to normal. And what happens in grief? We all know the stages of grief, and the biggest one is what? Anger. We get very angry and we forget to be kind. And so, I have to take a break every now and then from social media so that I can keep my brain in the right place, keep my mind focused on positive things. And, we forget that sometimes.
That is such a strong, important reminder, Pinky. You hit the nail on the head. And Elizabeth, actually, you say it all the time. You're the one that got this into my mind, which is comparison kills joy. Mm-hmm. I think you say that often. And so we have to focus on where we are as an individual. And it's really interesting that you point out, Pinky, about the grief process, because I agree. We are going through grief, each of us in our own ways. Maybe you're a parent of a senior in high school who didn't get to have the graduation that you first thought you would have. Maybe you are dealing with health issues. We're all going through different grieving processes. So it's such a good reminder, such a great reminder.
There's a lot of, a supposed to life. And I think Renee and I have the Gary V love, right? Like, and when he talked about the supposed to, like, I was supposed to have this, I'm supposed to have a nearly 7-year-old son right now. I'm supposed to. Well, who guaranteed me that? Who was it that guaranteed me that? It was something that I had in my brain, that I was supposed to hit my goals in February instead of now May, and those are the things that get us hung up in life, that cause us anxiety, and which make ourselves stressed. And, and I'm not saying I'm free of stress. Trust me, my husband will tell you that that's not the case, but I have to stop and say, okay, am I okay in this moment? Can I breathe in this moment? And what am I grateful for in this moment? I'm grateful that I have business. Yeah, somebody can be, a client can be a pain in the keister. We've all had them, but I'm okay in this moment,
And allowing yourself to change those expectations, because sometimes our expectations, especially for those of us that are very driven in our own way, they're not really realistic in this time. So being able to give yourself that flexibility and grace to adjust, like you were saying, they're going to happen, just not on our timing. And what are we going to learn from that? I'm learning so much by things not being on my timing right now. So,
for sure. Yeah. And I think it's that release of having the control. And you can see, literally on social media, you can see the people that are really struggling with the lack of control over the situation, and it's like, you have to, so they find something else that they can control. It's like, when somebody's an addict and they're addicted to alcohol, and then they switch into working out, right? They have a different, you just refocus. And it's funny to me. You can see who's really struggling with the control, because they want everything to go back to normal. And the thing is that it's not going to be the same normal that we're used to. And the key is, we have to respect that some people are not going to return to the way they were before. Like, I love hugging people, and I would love to see you, Renee, in person, and you, Elizabeth, in person, but I'm probably not going to hug you, right. And it's not to be offensive. And I think that that's where people get upset, is like, well, why won't she hug me now? And it's like, well, it's not that we're not friends. It's just that this is something that I'm choosing for myself right now. And we have to be respectful of other people. And I think we all struggle with that a lot.
You had mentioned phases, and you just put me in mind to a conversation that I had this morning with my team. And that is that we're going into the next phase to understand what the next phase of customer and agent relationship looks like. And specifically, the conversation was around, well, we typically print out listings and bring it to our buyers with a folder and a whole presentation, right? Our buyer presentation kit, when our agents are going to meet their buyers. Do we need to be doing that now? Does the customer want to touch? What does this look like? And so it brought us into this entire team conversation around, well, is there an implied necessity if we hand it, and then that could be something that insults some people? Should we eliminate it altogether? You're mentioning the hugs, Pinky. That's so true, that we really have to give grace and empathy to everyone, because we're also going to re-enter into different phases at different times. And I've been feeling, you talk about comparison killing joy. I'm feeling anxiety creep up in me right now, because in Florida, as you know, phase 1 has initiated, and everyone's going out. Not everyone. It seems like a lot of people are going out. I do not judge them for that at all. I want to go out so bad. Quite frankly, I'm scared. And so I'm starting to feel that, well, everyone's going out. I see it. Should I go out? And not knowing what the heck is the right answer.
And I don't think there is a right answer. I think the right answer is whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, your family, you know, your health situation, you know, and that's what we have to be respectful of. And it's the same thing. Like, you know, I was talking with a friend yesterday, and it's about like, okay, well, now we're getting to the point where we can do open houses again, traditional open houses. Quite frankly, I was never a fan of the traditional open house to begin with. You know, show up for 4 hours with some wine and cookies and pray people show up. It wasn't exactly my favorite thing to do. But now I have to tell you, I have the ability to do these amazing virtual open houses. I can track how many people with intention are watching these videos, which to me is a much more powerful tool than just the random neighbor stopping by, that we all know that really we're doing the open house, not necessarily to sell the property, but to collect a buyer for another property, right?
Right.
That said, if my seller came to me now and said, why aren't you doing, you know, traditional open houses? And I said, you know, I'm honestly just not comfortable being in that close of contact with the public. And she or he did not want me to be their agent. And that, you know what? More power to you. I respect that you want that type of agent. Go ahead and hire that type of agent. But for me, I have to be respectful of myself and my family. And I'm not comfortable with that. And that's just, you know, it's just going to be another, you know, it's like the agents that decide to take out a client who has not been pre-approved yet, right?
Yeah.
You're choosing that to go out and potentially waste your time with a client that may not even be approved for a loan. There's a lot of bonuses to that, you know, but on the flip side, you can't judge them. You have to say, well, that's how they run their business. And I have to be mindful of that.
Well, you were talking about the virtual open houses, and as we said when we first opened up the hour, you are amazing at video. Could you talk about some of the tips you have around the video? Have any of those tips or strategies changed over the last 60 days?
Oh, for sure. I mean, before we started COVID, doing a quote unquote virtual open house, you couldn't just do that in the MLS system or on your, you know, your board didn't have the accessibility to that. You could do a virtual tour, which we all know is a little bit different. We've had those for years, but you know, a virtual open house is different. And basically it's a live streaming video of some concoction. And you know, our boards typically weren't ready for that, you know. And that kind of to me makes me laugh, because I've been doing videos for so long within the realm of real estate that this issue of branded versus non-branded has come up. And it's funny to me because I remember about 8 years ago when my videos, and this is when I was in a different market, and my videos were really starting to be a thing. And that was before Facebook even allowed you to have videos. You had to use a YouTube link to put up into your Facebook page, and it didn't take you anywhere. You know, it was just that ugly. It wasn't even a pretty preview or anything. And, you know, that said, I remember, you know, back then having this issue. But the funny part of it was I was the only one. Nobody else cared because it didn't affect them. So now we're going, well, these rules are old school. Why do we have these rules about, I mean, anybody can figure out who the listing agent is. Why do we need to worry about this? And it's like, it's funny that it's come this far, but you know, I mean, I think that that's what has been a big difference, is it's starting to open up the eyes of agents and saying, well, you know, I really didn't want to do a video, but now I have to do a video if I want to stay in front of my clients. And these excuses of, oh, you know, like, hey, right here, I got this gray hair coming in. My hair's about 4 different shades of color right now. Like, my nails aren't perfect. You know, those are not good enough excuses any longer. Are you going to say that to your client? Well, I'm sorry, I can't do a video because I have gray roots this week and I don't want to get my hair done. You know, that's not doing what you can to sell the home for your client, right? You're not doing everything you can. And there are plenty of ways to do video in which you're not even in it, that you can showcase a property. And that's where the fear comes in. And, you know, it's, you know, I did a training on Friday where I trained agents on how to edit videos. And, you know, they're starting to use that. And it's so funny because I got a couple messages and they're like, it took me 2 hours to put together a video over the weekend, but thank you. And, you know, and I'm like, you know what? It's going to take you 2 hours in the beginning. It always does. Okay. I remember the first time I tried to digitally edit, and it took me like 3 hours to edit 30 seconds. And I literally laughed at myself because I knew that once I had the skill down, it wasn't going to take me that long to edit that. But it's like when you went and first put it in the MLS system and you were like, oh my gosh, there's like 999 questions. It's going to take me forever, you know? And now you're like, clock, you know, and you move on. It's the same thing. It's just a new skill that you have to have in your arsenal to help your clients.
That's a really good reminder as well, is there may be a learning curve for the production of some of the video content, but don't you think that for agents who are looking to start out, that it's sometimes a crutch? Well, I don't know how, when the reality is video is just as effective if you just use this, right? I mean, you can turn your phone on and get going. What tips do you have for those that are wanting to overcome the fear to dive into video?
And before you answer that, and she's talking about me too. I mean, Renee, you really are talking about me. I hate video. I don't know if anybody loves video, but I've embraced video a lot more. But I get tripped up on the whole editing thing, and that gets very intimidating to me. And so what I do is, well, I'll just do it live, right? Because then I don't have to edit it. I have to do it. But yeah, I think I'm getting in my own way because that's very intimidating. What you just said, sitting there for 2 hours, just made me cringe, going, "Oh my gosh, I don't even have time to do that," right? Because we get busy when you're a newer agent, you probably have more time. My time's limited right now, so I can't wait to hear what you're saying. But it's not just for the newer agents; it's for people like me sitting here listening.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, any new skill, you're not going to just, hey, my dad's great at golf, so I should go pick up the golf and, swing away and I'm going to be perfect. We all know that it's going to take time. It's just readjusting your time and saying, what should I be focused on? And there's so many bells and whistles out there. So, when agents come to me and they're like, I'm getting started, should I start with TikTok? I'm like, no, don't start with TikTok. That platform's intimidating even to me,
Yeah.
You need to focus on, okay, what is going to grow my business? And that is creating a listing video or a community video. And live is amazing. Live is my love. I love going live because I don't have to edit, because I can make mistakes. And people are like, oh my gosh, you like to make mistakes? I'm like, yeah, I'm not perfect. So if I stumble over my words and I can correct it while I'm still there and be like, you guys know what I mean, it's perfectly fine, because there's an expectation of error when you're doing a live. Whereas when you're doing an edited video, like this afternoon, I'm getting ready to go shoot a video that'll air on the local TV station for one of their segments. That has to be scripted. That has to be, all the words right. And I have to say it in perfection mode. That to me is a whole lot more intimidating. And it was funny because Josh said to me earlier, he just left to go set up. And he's like, okay, so I might be a little more nervous with this one because, I'm not so good with the word, and I'm like, it's going to be fine. You're just walking it. But, I think it's just, you have to get over your fear. And, I put up something in my group the other day where I said, you want to know what the secret's making a great video? It's making a whole lot of bad ones. And you just have to go in and just start making the bad ones. And, there's all kinds of ways to practice, like Instagram stories. A lot of times, like today, I did an Instagram live open house from my house today where you can share, because the Instagram live allows you to share your videos and your photos into your live stream. So I took photos, put them into Canva, created nice little templates, and then I did a quick little Instagram live. Really, it was only for me because I wanted to practice some of the different verbiage I wanted to use later today. Like, okay, so this is how much the square footage is. We think you allow pets. So, when you start to do it a couple times, you guys know this, as you get more comfortable with it, when you've gone out and you've shown the house 15 times, the stats of that house. Mm-hmm. You've been there, you know? So, I mean, it's just something that you have to practice. And agents always have the excuse of, I just don't have enough time in my day to learn another skill. And it's like, well, then you need to give up a skill that's not getting you anywhere. I was listening to Tom Ferry this morning, and he's like, what can you unlearn? We're constantly learning things. What part of you, is not really producing you any results, and you need to unlearn that skill,
The power of video, and I talk with my agents all the time about this, is that if you're going to go out, as an example, and view a new community for a new development, and you're viewing it for a customer, why not create or capture a video while you're there, even if it's only with your cell phone, that you then can cascade out in the foundation of your online footprint forever? right? So it's about having that ability to, you're already doing this
You're already
anyway.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why not do one more step while you're there to cascade it out, and it stays online forever. So it will have a product, bring you customers in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can delete it if it's bad. But I think the statistics are that 80% of buyers will research the community before they start looking at the house, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So if you're doing a video that you want seen online, say on YouTube, it makes more sense to do a YouTube community video showcasing the community versus just doing that individual listing, because that listing video has intention. Anybody that's going in to watch that video has intention or interest in that property. You're not looking to make that video necessarily viral, right? That is an
Yeah.
video. Whereas someone who wants to learn about, say, Treviso Bay and what are the amenities, what's the average price point, what type of homes are in there, those have a higher life expectancy because people they want to go a little bit longer and learn those types of things. They want to see those points of interest within the community. So at the beginning of COVID, when we were at social distancing hardcore, Josh and I started doing a Facebook Live once a week where we would go and showcase a community at a social distance. And basically, we get in the little pink beetle, we put the top down, and we travel through the community. And we give you stats on the properties, like, okay, so there's about 70 up for homes up for sale. There's 35 neighborhoods within this community. The average HOA is this. The rental prices, if you were looking to rent, are around here. And I'm providing them with information. And that has actually been one of the biggest replies that we've had to some of our videos is people engaging with that content. And hey, can you go do this community? And online on YouTube, I've seen a lot more views with that because people want that information. They can't get out necessarily to see it. But if you can break it down for them, and that's the biggest thing with video, I think that people overlook is they think they have to have this really big personality, which you do need to be a little bit bigger on camera, but they also think they have to have this vocabulary that is straight out of the dictionary and that they have to have all this verbiage that's just perfect. And it's like, no, talk to the common man, talk to the everyday person, just like you would, Now, some people may talk like they straight out of a dictionary, I'm sure, but, keep it very conversational. When you're watching the news, very rarely do you hear people talk above you. The slogan back in the day was "talk to the milkman," because the milkman is the average person, and that was the way you learned in journalism, was to speak to the everyday person. So, like when I do a training, I try to train on that very basic level because you never know what the other person on the other side's experience is.
What is your go-to? Your favorite YouTube? Is your favorite Instagram? What is your favorite platform right now?
Oh, I love Instagram stories. I think that there's so much intention in the stories. People want to see them. They want to engage. It's a very simple way to engage. And there's a privacy factor that you don't get when you post publicly to Facebook. Because a lot of people will watch your stuff, but they will never tell you anything. And they won't put up the comments because maybe they don't want to get notified 99 times over everybody else's comments. They might not want somebody else to see that they've commented on there. So with stories, you get those direct messages and you're having private conversations one-on-one with these people that is just full of intention, full of growth and relationships. And that to me is just, wow, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
You've built an incredible Instagram following. I'm one of them, of course. And my question would be around, is there a curation? Are you curating with purpose, a strategy, say on every 2 weeks or 30-day plan? Or is it truly the content you're putting out is, this is what I'm doing today and this is what I'm covering? So it's more of a documenting versus creating, or documenting versus curating?
It's more of a documenting. I mean, my mentor, Katie Lance, she probably would kill me for saying I don't have a social media planner. I don't have like a big thing mapped out with I'm going to do this on that day. I don't have any kind of structure that way. But I have to say, like, if you were to go over and follow me on Instagram, which is Pinky Knows Naples, I have about 5,000 followers. The thing is, those are 5,000 followers that I worked hard to engage with and grow my platform with I didn't pay for them. And a lot of times you'll see some Instagrammers that have 20,000 followers or real estate, and you're like, how in the world does Joe Blow in Tulsa, Oklahoma have 20,000 followers? Well, more than likely they paid for it, you know, or maybe they got that one hit wonder on HGTV or something, you know. That's not the average for the average real estate agent on Instagram. That's not the average. But as far as like a strategy, I mean, yeah, I think that, you know, Instagram, the timeline itself is a very pretty timeline. It's not a place to put up crappy photos, right? Unless there's a really big reason as to why you're doing it. It's really to showcase something pretty. And, you know, and people, we know this, resonate with faces. So it's a great place to put up photos with you in it. So instead of just putting up your listing photo, putting yourself in front of the listing photo or something, a dog or some, you know, some way to like make it a little more engaging. You just throwing up pictures of your listing isn't going to get you likes. It's not going to get you engagement. You have to share a little bit more in the timeline itself. And then stories is the behind the scenes. What am I doing all day long? Like we were talking, Renee, it's like, oh, you seem so busy. And I'm like, am I? Like, it's just my day. Like,
Yeah.
it's just how things roll. Like, I don't know. Like, but it's the behind the scenes. And people think like, oh, you know, why does anybody care about me dropping off my dry cleaning? And it's like, you would be surprised at the amount of people that want to know where you go for a dry cleaner. Oh, you had red wine on that. Did they get it out? Like it's the most bizarre things, but people like to know. You know, my girlfriend put up a recipe for like taco chicken last week. And I was like, how did you do that? Like, you know, it has nothing to do with real estate. And yet I'm watching and I'm like, and that's what you want, because that's where they build the know, like, and trust factor. And they're like, well, if she knows how to, and I know it's a bad comparison, but if she knows how to make tacos, then she might know how to sell a house, you know?
Right.
But you know, that's how people do it, you know? So.
That's a first. Well, the point that we always have to remind ourselves, and I'm guilty of forgetting sometimes, is that the content we need to put out should just be more about us, our lifestyle, and documenting our journey, not here's the next 5 listings I have coming up. And it's not to say there's not a space for that, but have you found that the more documenting your day and sharing your story and your journey of the moment is what has given you the ability to build more relationships, which then turn into real estate transactions for you?
Definitely. I think like building the relationships, getting in there. I mean, it's like when I teach about doing like a Facebook Live, you know, you're going to get comments, like for this example, you're going to have comments. And if you just let them sit there and you don't answer them, if you don't thank people and say, hey, thanks for watching, what part of the video did you like the most? You know, any of those things, like it's just like going to any kind of networking and you're like, hey, I went to that networking meeting, but I stood in the corner with my Coke the entire time and I didn't say a word, so I got nothing out of it. Well, the same thing's going to come from you. If you're not engaging with the content that you're creating, then you're not going to have any growth and you're not going to have any relationships. And what's been great for me is my relationships have grown through real estate agents. So, you know, I have a lot of referral partners all over the country, all over the world. I mean, so for me, that's really great for me to go out and tell my sellers that like, hey, look, you know, when I do a video, there are people in Australia that are watching the video. There's people in Canada watching the video. So it gets out a little bit further, and that's important for them to understand that, because now we know newspapers don't go anywhere, right?
Yeah. What is one of the mistakes you often see or pitfalls you see real estate agents make on Instagram?
First of all, they make their page private. Okay. I don't understand why. If you want to sell houses, you need to make it public, right? And so it's different than Facebook. It's not like, hey, I follow you, you follow me. It's not that same kind of mentality. So you want to make sure that you're private and that people are, that you're public, and you don't have to have people say like request, like, hey, can I follow you? You know, that's the first. And then of course, thank you, Lydia. You know, that's the first thing, is that I see that they have it private. Then when they have it public, their name is like MLJB 1412, and I'm like, who are you? Like you want to make sure you have your name on there. You want to make sure that you know where in the world you are and what you work. So you want to make sure that you have somewhere in there, like for me, it's Naples, Florida, Southwest Florida, Fort Myers. Like you want to make sure people know where you're at, that they can look at it and go, oh, she's here in Orlando, oh, she works Kissimmee, oh, she works, this particular area. So they know where they're at, and you want to make sure that you are mixing it up. And this is across social media, not just business. Showcase a part of you. Now, that doesn't mean, and this is where, when people get confused by authenticity, all right, I'm going to say it. There is a fine line between being authentic and sharing every skeleton in your closets, okay? I do not need to know about you checking in at the doctor's office for your annual GYN, okay? Like that is too much information. You don't need to be sharing that. Okay? I'm being honest. I'm doing an intervention here. So there is a difference between that. If you don't want somebody, if there's something you're posting on social media that you don't want one person to see, I got news for you. Don't post it no matter what your privacy settings are, because somebody's going to screenshot it and send it to that one person you don't want to see it. So, just zip it up and move on.
Good reminders. Good reminders. How do you see Instagram changing? And do you see any trends or any hot tips you can share in a forecast for where you think we might be heading?
Well, I will tell you that, with Instagram Live, they just unrolled the ability now, and I just did my first one today to see how it works. But you now have the ability to take it from Instagram Live and immediately share it over to IGTV, which is the YouTube for Instagram. So now it can live on past that 24-hour mark that everybody gets so worked up about, and it goes right over to IGTV. You can create a series over there so that it lives longer. They've talked about for a while that the likes may go away and that the only people that'll see the likes are the actual creator of the content. So you would be able to see your likes, but the rest of the world would not. So there's things that they're doing to change it up. I think that like I said, it's not as easy to be negative on Instagram as it is on Facebook. Facebook, anybody can get on and be that keyboard like nastiness, like I hate my life, the whole world stinks, and you don't have to put up a picture or video. What are you going to do on Instagram? Like you got to come up with a way to like really, like especially in the timeline, what are you going to do? Find a picture of yourself really angry, I mean, so
I've seen some of those, so yeah.
Right. I mean, but and what was great about with Facebook now is with Facebook Live, I had predicted it a while ago that they were going to include closed captioning on those live videos. And now they have started using closed captioning. So you don't even have to worry about going over to Rev and having the whole video transcribed. Now it's just there. So of course there's going to be mistakes, and I have to be very careful when I enunciate pinky nose Naples. I have to be very clear about that.
Interesting transcribing going on there.
That's funny.
So when you were talking about the Instagram Live now feeding over to your IGTV, that's huge, because isn't it true that IGTV allows you now to include a link and link out?
I believe so. Chelsea Pipe,
interesting.
IGTV. So it's getting more and more robust with the ability for a long form video. I mean, what people forget or maybe don't realize is that, Zuckerberg, he is the owner of Facebook and Instagram, and his biggest competition is YouTube. So when you have these two going at each other, well, what is YouTube? YouTube is long form searchable information. He needs to have a platform that allows that to happen. So that's what he's going with his growth with IGTV. So, that's what you have to consider is like, okay, well, it may not benefit me right this second, but will it in the future benefit me? When I first got on Facebook, people were like, what is she doing? What is she doing? And then now it's like crazy with everybody on Facebook, like people that said, oh, I don't care about anybody and their pot roast for dinner. Now they're throwing up their pot roast for dinner,
Among other things.
We talk about Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, because that's a lot of the issues that people have had too. So I know you're very well positioned on YouTube as well. So how are you getting that content out? How are you getting those views or the subscribers, or even a newer agent? I've had we have some in my market that do well on video with YouTube, but we have a whole bunch that want to learn and figure that out. And is that just taking time and just getting that content out there and knowing some of it's going to be kind of hidden, or what's your secret there?
Okay, so what I'll tell you is I don't have thousands of views on YouTube. I want to be clear on that. Like, I think I have one video that has thousands of views on it.
Okay.
For me, YouTube is very intention driven. Okay. What I will tell you is my friend Karen Carr has the book YouTube for Real Estate Agents, and she has a group on Facebook as well. She has a phenomenal course that will walk you through how to get into the SEO of YouTube and how to create longer form videos that are searchable videos. Okay. So she is amazing on that topic. And she is who I have learned from. And she is, taught me, like, okay, put in the keyword searches, make sure that that's part of your search criteria so that you know what are people searching. So, if moving to Naples is a term that they're searching, you'll look it up and you'll see what is the competition and should I do a video on that specifically. For me, my YouTube is very intention driven, as in, it is the place where I send my database. Like, I have a huge database, like I'm sure a lot of agents do. And if you don't, you really need to get yourself a CRM of some kind. And I will send out videos through that. And I'll say, here's my latest community video. Go and hit this link and it takes them to my YouTube channel, right? Mm-hmm. So then they can go and watch that video at their leisure when they want to. And, the thing is with video, and this isn't, we're not talking about Facebook. We're talking about email videos here. Okay. Obviously I'm a big bomb. I've used it for many years and I have found the value in it. And when you put the word video just in the subject line alone, your open rate is 19% higher. Okay. So people want to see, oh, it's a video. I can watch this. So then you have to be very creative. You can't just say video in every single email.
Right.
You start to be a little more creative with it. My open rates on my emails range between 37 to 40%. So
that's amazing.
Right. And on the average is 10 to 12 open rates, right? So to me, it's about being strategic with what do I mix it up with? Like, how do I get that word video somewhere into the subject line? Whether it's like, hey, join us as we go live through this community. People are starting to understand that verbiage now. So they go in, they click to get the reminder, like Renee had the reminder up on Facebook. You can take that link, that reminder link, you can send it to your entire database. And you can say, hey, I'm doing a virtual open house. Click this link for the reminder. So there's all kinds, and people are going, oh my gosh, that's so over my head. If I were to show you how easy it is, you'd be like, oh, that's like one sit up. I could do that, like.
Well, and speaking of you showing everyone how easy it is, you are so amazing and you do a lot of classes. So can you give us a heads up as to maybe when your next classes are or where we can find out when you're scheduling your next classes?
Well, I have a group on Facebook, Pinky Knows Video. And that's where I typically announce them. And then there's a place there where you can sign up for future webinars. I'm kind of playing with it. I mean, COVID has been a very interesting transition with the classes. And, I had started doing the webinars just before COVID had come into play. And one of the challenges of training, especially when I'm training to edit videos, is I miss the faces because I can look at you and tell if you're lost, right? Like you can be like, I don't know what's going on here, and it's hard because I have to rely on them, but I love doing it. And like I was telling you guys earlier, I have agents that are like, hey, I just did my first video over the weekend and, it took me 2 hours, but I have the video. I'm so excited. And I'm like, it's not always going to take you 2 hours. You're going to be able to do it a whole lot faster. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just did this one on video editing, so I'll probably wait a month or so, but I do other ones. I think I'm going to do one here shortly on Facebook Live because I realized that for me at this point, yeah, I just hit the live button and go. But I also realized that there's a lot of steps that I do to get ready before I hit that Facebook Live. And I think that that's what everybody wants to know is what are the ingredients that go into making that live better?
Well, you're on autopilot now, right? I mean, you've been doing it. It kind of becomes second nature. Elizabeth and I do a lot of live as well. And quite frankly, I agree with what you said in the beginning. I think live is 100 times easier than a produced video that, you got to understand what you're going to say and either memorize your lines or have a teleprompter. And I know you come from the journalism side of things, but most of us don't. And that's terrifying.
Well,
Just curious.
on that note, when I was in journalism, I have to tell you this, like, and this is what this plays into real estate agents mentality as well, is that, my name at the time, my maiden name was Slayton and my full name is Susan, right? Now, you probably never heard me say Susan before. And my news director at the time, he was trying to, I don't know, change me in some way. And so he says, on your tag out, do Susan Slayton, Fox 13 News. And I said, okay. So I go in and I do it. And then my husband, Josh was my husband still at that time, but I just didn't use my married name. And he goes, why do you sound British? And it was because I was so uncomfortable saying Susan Slayton Fox, because I don't say that name. It was so awkward to me. And that's what I think a lot of real estate agents is, they try to, I need to be like Pinky, or I need to be like Renee. And you need to like just put on your hat of, this is who I am, and this is how I'm going to say it. And, everybody knows that, like, I chop up people's last names. It's like I have the worst with it. Right. And I'm like, you know what? It's just, I have fun with it. But, I think that you have to do enough video and know who you are, and there are going to be people, and I still get it. Like, why does she have pink hair? Pink hair is so unprofessional. Why is she doing that? I don't, even my own mom, I don't like it when your voice gets all squeaky, Susan, You're never gonna
job though, right? That's all moms.
Well, it is. It is all moms, but
yeah.
There's always going to be somebody who doesn't like something about you. And not everybody's going to like you. And I think, we all know this on a very basic, like that, not everybody's going to like me. I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And yet you get that one negative comment and you're like, oh my God, I don't like me. I don't know how to deal with it. And I'm never going to do another video again.
Yeah, but Pinky, you and I are both Gary Vee fans. And one thing he reminds us all the time, right, is don't listen to the negative comments and don't listen to the positive ones much either. Right?
No.
Just do you and be you.
It is. But I will say that you do have to look at growth. Like he'll say, if you get 2 people watching, that's great. And that's the thing that I want to point out too, is that so many agents get hung up on live because they're like, the whole world is going to watch. And I was watching a webinar during this COVID, and this social media expert said, well, go and do a Facebook Live. Maybe 150 people will show up. And I'm like, 150 people? Like, what kind of Facebook Live is she doing? Because I have never had 150 people like just boom show up. I mean, and it's so funny to me, because I'm like, you're going to be lucky if you get 10 people to watch you live, right? The power is in the replay. The power is in the growth, that they know, like, oh, okay, next time I don't want to miss it when she's going live, right?
Yeah.
That's where the power is. Don't get hung up on the fact that you're going to turn this on and the whole world's going to be watching. More than likely, it's going to be, maybe your crazy cousin Ed that doesn't have anything else to do. It's going to say dumb comments throughout the whole thing that you're going to have to ignore and then delete, right? But, the whole world is not watching you. You are not that important to the world. I mean, I say that with love, but I don't.
You're right. You're right. One of the tips I'll often let agents know is too, if when you're getting started, is you can do a Facebook Live and set it to only you, so that you're the only one that can see that until you get the mechanics and the logistics down. That's a really good step to try.
Yeah, she failed to tell me about that, and I just made a fool of myself my very first time. I was like, oh, that would have been nice to know. But it's just, like you said, just whatever. I mean, I get people commenting on stuff because usually when I'm live, it's because I'm embarrassing myself in some way. And I mean, somebody the other day said, when are you bringing the goat back? I'm like, oh, okay, you were watching that, and it's one of those things that still keeps the conversations going. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, wait, I forgot, Pinky. You have to go back, or any of our audience watching has to go back to Elizabeth Riley's feed when we were on the earlier onset of quarantine, and she decided to borrow or get a goat for her kids to play with for a couple days.
And the dog. I mean, it was just, I was losing my mind, so I needed something else to come in and entertain, and I ended up chasing a goat down the street.
Like, on Facebook Live.
Yeah,
there you go.
Welcome to the Rileys. It is not normal behind the scenes. So
We are so grateful that you shared your time with us today. I know that you mentioned your group, but can you give all your contact information, and we'll make sure you're tagged in these posts as well. But where do we find you? You are amazing. The call to make for the Naples area in real estate for sure.
Well, thank you so much, ladies, for having me. On Instagram, it's going to be Pinky Knows Naples. So it's Pinky, Pinky Knows Naples. On Facebook, the group is Pinky Knows Video. So same Pinky Knows Video. And then on like LinkedIn, you can find me under Sue Pinky Benson.
Thank you so much for sharing today. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you
You
so
too.
much.
We're following along. Bye, ladies.
We'll see you soon.